it's 400. I actually don't really recall the MMR of Europe and their leagues. Masters is easy to get into in Europe. It has a lower MMR bar, but then Masters 1 is considerably larger, and getting the GM on Europe is much more difficult. So I'm not sure their exact MMR difference, but I am fairly certain, I'm certain, that Deity is generally the better player. We're going to talk about, you know, Vriska's opportunity to punch above her weight, which she's certainly done in the past. In the bottom right, as the red Terran, it is Deity. And in the top left, as the green Zerg, we have Vriska, aka Alicia. So, yeah, Vriska is pretty good about having some cheesy openers and some odd play styles. And if she's not bothered in the, you know, minute 0 to minute like 6 or 7, I think her macro is actually pretty good. I think she'll take maybe a game here. I think Deity really is just that solid, but I also think that TVZ is one of those matchups, especially for the Terran side, like specifically for the Terran side of thing, that actually goes pretty much as normal 9 times out of 10. So I say that and people are going to like throw out random all-ins and build orders and all that. And yes, of course, they happen. But this is even like a complaint amongst like the, you know, professional tier where like, you know, Zergs will be complaining like, oh, we don't have any really good all-ins. Like, okay. They clearly have options, but I'm also kind of on the side of like, I feel like with a good Terran, with good Reaper control and Hellions moving out at appropriate times, and a non-super greedy build order, right? So like a 3cc before factory. I think Terrans are mostly feeling safe from minute 0 to 6 or 7 in this matchup. So they kind of get to do their thing. And when you're talking about doing your thing for that really important build order time between two players who have pretty different mechanical skills, that's when the games look the most one-sided. Now, ZVT can get a little weird when it comes to actual engagements, and that's actually Deity's main problem. It's why she loses to QB, is certainly my opinion on things, is that her macro is definitely good enough, maybe even at times better than QB's, but her engagements are still kind of lacking in this matchup. So I think that's what Vriska should take advantage of. Again, hopefully not taking any damage prior to 6-7 minutes. But then also going for Ling Baneling specifically. Roaches make things too easy for almost every single Terran I've ever talked to. You know, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad. A good Roach game is, you know, good to throw out every once in a while. A good 1-1 Roach all in, you know, that's fine. But generally, it feels easier to account for engagements when you're up against Roaches and Roach Hydra. So I would say not. Don't do that. And Vriska has certainly shown some Roach preferences in the past. I think she's actually just, she's able to do both compositions. So I'm hoping she chooses Ling Baneling, Hydra or not. But definitely Ling Baneling. A change in this matchup, probably the more important one, because there really weren't that many. Stim doesn't really impact TVZ that much. It kind of impacts TVP the most, but we also have not had people develop new builds quite yet, which might happen in the future, we'll see. So I'm not, you know, Stim did change, 21 seconds faster. That is something to consider. Maybe the most considerable thing is that the Overlord scouting is 25 cheaper. Doesn't seem like a lot, but when you consider how early it is, 25 is actually a considerable amount. Plus, that's like the amount of time your drones are still in gas. It can certainly look appealing, and we are going to see more and more Zergs, I think, add that upgrade on. Which means that we might see better defenses against like battlecruiser builds, which have kind of been plaguing a lot of Zerg players for a while now. But again, we'll see. Like, this is a damn new patch. We've seen 2 GSL groups with a new patch, and we've seen Challenger with a new patch, but not the new maps. So really, I think most eyes are on Montreal is next week, right? To see exactly what the pros are bringing out on these new maps, these new builds, all that stuff. These are just Hellions. They're not going to turn to Hellbats, which Vriska would have been a little weak to, actually. Her Bailey Nest is a little late, but that's fine. Liberator on the main base, a little bit late on the Spore Crawler, but good reaction, pull away with the drones. She does have Lings guarding against the Hellions darting in as well, and things seem to be going swimmingly for both players. Deity doesn't expect much from these opening Hellions, but if she can grab it, great. If she doesn't, well, then her macro is still looking pretty good. Engineering bays are done, third to sea is done, and she is going to start adding on 2 more barracks very soon to round out that 5-1-1. Creep spread is a little lackluster. Hellions think they see an opportunity, but they're wrong. Oh, drones misclicked? Yeah. And these Hellions are now, I would say, just go ahead and give up on the idea of them ever doing damage. Just include them with the attack. If Deity's going to go ahead and move out with 2 tanks, her armory could be perfectly timed to have 2 tanks with Hellbats. I think. There's 1 tank, and eventually a second one will come out. Right now, getting that 3rd CC up, putting down that wall, and just making sure the creature doesn't get insane. Unfortunately for Vriska, it's the opposite of insane. It's actually quite poor, even losing another active creature here, despite having a good number of queens. The lair is also pretty late. Now, this could mean that her economy is fantastic, and she does have an almost fully saturated 3-base economy, which is pretty good. But her centrifugal hooks is going to be considerably later, and if Deity really is going to push out with a 2nd tank here, that could be really, really bad. I'm not sure that's actually her goal. Her 2nd tank was a little late. Same with her armory being a little late. Like, very nitpicky here, just to be clear. So she's not going to quite have that perfect timing, but, well, it's not a perfect timing. It's still going to be before centrifugal hooks, because it's that late. I mean, it's going to start hopefully immediately, but even if it did, it's going to be quite a while. And without any creep spread, we're going to have super, super, super slow banelings. Easy peasy picked off. Hellions, even still in Hellion mode, could actually be still effective. They could actually kite everything down here, especially off of creep, and that's actually what they did. A little bit there. Combat shield is done. Tank is sieged. Hellions are mostly gone at this point. With the armor being done, would have been anti-timing, but they soaked up what they could. They did what they could, and it's going to be enough, actually. The Marines, combined with a tank here, is going to be enough to take down these queens as Lings just come in one by one. They're easily going to be cleaned up. Medevac also microed away from the queens trying to target fire, and that's probably going to be it. Deity probably just won with this push. Vriska not willing to tap out quite yet, but behind this, Deity's macro is still looking pretty good. She's now producing 1 tank at a time at least. Probably going to go for a 2nd factory when... Oh, she does have one. There you go. Actually going for Widow Mines too, so going to transfer over into Drilling Claws, yeah, and Widow Mines. Not exactly necessary, but either option is available when you're going up against Ling Baneling Hydra. Double drop into the main. Scan reveals that it's still Lair Tech, and we actually even have a Hydralistan on the way, so going to be on Lair Tech for a little while longer. I think she was wondering if Vriska was trying to skyrocket up to Ultras, but she's just confirmed that's not the case, and she should feel... Actually, regardless of what she scouted, whether it was that or not, like, she should feel comfortable moving out. There's no creep spread. There's very little action elsewhere. She just got a ton of army wasted trying to defend. It was not cost-effective whatsoever. So she should feel confident in every single way. There are a decent number of overlords covering the map, so I'll give that much as far as map presence, map vision goes, but it's actually missing these 2 medevacs, so I don't know. Nice little spot here, again, off of that creep spread. It's really brutal for the Zerg to tackle this. Upgrades have evened up here. 2-2 to 2-2. But 4th base is going to be faster for Deity at this rate, since this one's going to be canceled, looks like, once again. Tank's going to be focused right on top of the Banelings. There we go. A little late to the party, but it's nothing but Banelings left over. Makes it easy peasy for the tanks. The Hydras do manage to rip apart 3 out of 4 of the tanks. But the Marines still live is very, very scary. They're going to slice and dice those Hydras apart. Easy. Even with the Lings coming forward, it should still be favorable to the Marines. Bit of a premature pickup. Banelings do roll forward, and now that would be a good time to pick up, but she was focusing on the attack. I don't actually blame her, though. I didn't think there would be any more Banelings, but there were. So she loses the attack on the south side. Without any Marines, one does not count. The tank should be heading home. But it looks like Vriska having to respond to the attack to the north has not cleaned up this attack, despite the opportunity to do so. And Deity just simply reinforces it, so I guess that's fine. 2-2 will finish up for both parties, but again, Deity's macro is looking so much better. 4th base is going to be down on location. Double starport, fusion core on the way. 2nd armory as well. It's going for some pretty good upgrades. Kind of an interesting beat bop back and forth between tanks and Widow Mines. But I assume she'll also get that ship weapons. Oh, that Widow Mine hit was pretty good. And there's way too much Terran army left over. GG. Deity takes game number 1 almost entirely with that first medevac drop. Not quite. Cool tournament, thank you. Thank you, Schoonon. Alright, Vriska chooses to stay on the server and goes to Thunderbird. Hope you guys are enjoying the tournament. If you want to contribute to these players, it's your last chance to do so. Not many of these gals stream. Poison does. Red Arquette does. The other ones might, but I actually wouldn't know too much about it. I'm not sure how often they participate in other tournaments either. So, if you want to contribute, you can go to the Matcherino. If you don't, perfectly fine. We already have almost $400 going to the players, which is really awesome to see. Again, some of that is kind of the leftover money that didn't quite make Banshee number 28 happen, so I just put, you know, the rest of it into this one. But a lot of it's also from 2 supporters right now, Nebulizer and TK Game Guy. So just if you're interested. Otherwise, supporting these players, I guess, more directly, Twitter, Twitch, whatever, is awesome to do. Also supporting the Banshee tournament, or the Banshee Discord, which is different from the Banshee tournament. I know a lot of people, understandably, got confused, figured that, you know, the Banshee Discord made the Banshee tournament. No, not actually how it went down. I made the tournaments, and around basically the exact same time the Discord group was made. And I figured, like, this would be a great opportunity to just kind of combine brands and open up advertising through the tournament to this group, which is a female-only, women-only Discord group, as well as a it's run by women-only, Twitter, Discord, whatever else they have planned for the future. But the tournament is entirely run by me. I pay the admin, who is currently fighting right now, actually. It's Vriska is our admin. She's a damn good one, so if you're ever looking for an admin, you can always hit her up. Yeah, and it's just, the Banshees was just a convenient name to use and give a little publicity to the Discord group, which I think has really worked. We got a lot of new people join in. A lot of people saying that it's nice to have some place to feel like they're safe to be like, yeah, I am a girl, without having a bunch of people go like, girl, 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 and be kind of weird as well. Trust us, it does happen a lot. So it's been very effective. And as far as the competition goes for the tournament, again, I think like Deity is a really good example of this, but a lot of these girls, these women, have like actually really enjoyed the experience of having competitive play where they feel like they can go into the Twitch chat without having to worry about a bunch of shitheads being shitty. You guys have been awesome. As well as playing the tournament without the inevitable, like, their opponent being like, hey, you're pretty good for a girl. These stupid things happen. And obviously we get kind of, we overcome it, we get through it, but, you know, it's nice to not have to do that. It's nice not to have to prepare yourself mentally for the eventual tap out and be like, yeah, you played pretty good for a girl, I don't know. Or I can't lose to a girl because my guys' friends will make fun of me. Like, why even tell people that? These are things I've gotten told to me directly. These are not, like, hypotheticals. This has actually happened. If you have ever done that to anyone, why? Just, like, I feel like this is, it's just because, you know, I don't really blame these people, like, necessarily that much. I think what happens is that they don't think about what they say or what they think. They literally just say what they think, and then they type it, and they press enter, and you're like, well, you probably should have thought, like, at least a little bit about that before you wrote it. Which, I mean, hey, you know, Everyone does this at some point, and especially Twitch chatters do that. I'm just like, did you just like stop and think for like a second before you press that answer button? No? Okay. No. Par for the course. All right. Ugh. There's my little blurb. Just filling the gaps of the first 6 minutes of a TVZ. Deity does have, certainly within her, to go for a cheeky little all-in or battlecruiser build, which I'm kind of feeling the battlecruiser build for this map. Thunderbird, as far as the amount of open space, isn't as good as King's Cove, I think, is the best one for battlecruisers. No, it is the best one. Yeah, it is. But I'm just thinking of, like, you know, the longer game here. Super, super large map. You're not looking for those swift 2-base pushes as much. So you open up a little battlecruiser harassment, a little bit of a lead. I could see it. What ends up happening in this map more often is a later but more powerful push to this high grounds and attacking into that 4th base. Very brutal for the Zerg players to deal with. Well, I called the battlecruiser. I am wrong. It's not going to be it. Looks like she's going to add on stim, just like last game with a little bit of Liberator harassment. And as far as the Zerg player goes here, we actually have a slightly faster Bailey Nest, I want to say. One that would perhaps come out a bit better if this was a Hellbat attack, but it's not. It is, once again, 6 Hellions. I mean, maybe 2 more than Deity really needs. Well, I mean, I guess technically she doesn't really need any Hellions. Nothing's happening, but that's a bit of a bold thing to do, not make any Hellions in this matchup. So the melee nest is not going to have to be used, but it would be a bit safer. I'm thinking that if Deity wins 2-0, I think the 3rd game she would throw out like a Hellbat build or a Marauder build or something. Just to see if she can get the easy peasy 3-0. Marine is not going to be able to stop Overlords with speed. So that is definitely a point against doing anything too cheeky. Now this would be a kind of an awkward timing, right? Because if it was a Hellbat build, it'd be hitting like now. And you would have just seen it and just been making Banelings, which is like the less than ideal situation. But it is workable. But this also would have scouted the battlecruiser popping out and transporting, and at least she'd have her queens in the right position. Sport Crawler placed, exactly for a Liberator is going to do excellent work here. Not quite kill it, but 1 shot from this queen I think will do it. No, 2 shots. Yeah. Lair is going to finish up much faster than last game's. It was like a 4:30 Lair. 1-1 has started up. It's funny though, because like as I was saying, I don't think this map is the one that you need specifically fast centrifugal hooks. I think you could delay it a little while and just kind of focus on that creep spread, trying to get it over some of these little bumps and ramps and whatnot. But she does have the option to immediately start that should she want to. She's actually lacking on gas a little bit. She only went up to 2. Oh no, she has a 3rd one. But does need more. There's the Baneling speed. Deity has gotten her wall up with 1-1 on the way. 3rd CC could have even been built on location, but very, very risky for the Terran to do that. But she already risked a little just by going for this type of wall off. Clearly it worked out. Both of them macroing up a storm here. Vriska should probably be looking for that 4th base like now. But she's actually adding on 3 more queens. That's interesting. Is she gonna go for like a Nidus Worm? There's no reason you would have this many queens. If 3 of these were inject queens, then that's fine. That's 5 extra queens, but she has 8 extra queens? She has 9 extra queens? She has 8 extra queens. Yeah, she has 8 extra queens. She just made the inject queens. You don't need 8 queens. That's a lot. Okay. I don't know. So getting more or less queens can be a decision made based on what you think your opponent's going to do. So sometimes we only see like 4 queens opposed to 6 queens, but I would say 8. I mean, I feel like Snoot maybe did 8, you know? But it's been a while since I've seen this many. The one great thing queens are good at, you know, besides creep spreading and injecting, is they can take a shot from a tank, but not if they die to Marines first, so oopsie-daisy. Marines come in, slaughter the queens, bringing that back down to a normal-looking 5. and clean up the creep spread to get the 4th base. Very nice cleanup there. This was with 2 tanks, by the way, so she did do the 2-tank push/drop. She got there as soon as possible. Second factory is on the way, 4th CC as well, but Vriska loses the 4th base, loses her creep spread, she still goes right up to that hive. She already got the infestation pit. She got the Hydra list in, but isn't really committing to a lot of Hydras. She is looking towards that technology, but can she survive to even get there with any good amount of units? You know, if you have 2 Ultras and 20 Lings, like, it's still not an army. Okay, she got a couple of Hydras. And Deity's not going to really stop. Now she has this high ground that I was talking about, and she will be able to reinforce fairly quickly. She also still has the Hellbats available, which I think she should bring forward and use as Hellbats, but kind of guarding a would-be secret 4th base, I suppose. Overlord gets into the main, doesn't really see. There's not much to see as far as decisions being made. Not many Terrans go for 3-base all-ins anymore, but I guess that would be something you want to scout. Most of them are throwing down that 4th CC. Most of them. I guess you would also want to scout just exactly how prepared they are to combat the Ultras, and if maybe you should go into Broodlords instead, but they both kind of have a similar option. You go into a bunch of starports and make either Liberators or Vikings. Tanks on the high ground are just so nasty to deal with. Now, this Hive does give the option for Ultras and a Greater Spire, and we do have a Spire on the way. It also gives you the option for Vipers, which are probably what you really want against this push on this map, is Vipers first, or a really sick surround, which it looks like Vriska is trying to set up a little bit, maybe. No, it's more of a run-by, I think. Really hard to run by in this map, though. The chances of you oh, no, she mined out the minerals. Oh, look at that. Okay, my bad. My bad, my bad. I was gonna say the chances of finding no army collected here is pretty low. It does happen, but I'm just gonna get a couple SCVs as well as a sensor tower. That's quite nice. Deity probably saw it and didn't realize the minerals are mined out, so makes sense. Well, this is just getting worse and worse. I think if you already had Vipers out, they could be abducting. I mean, Blinding Clouds in a big swamp of units is always the big explosion where all the casters get really hyped, right? But you could also be abducting right now, these tanks off the ledges, and it'd be pretty effective, but it takes a little while for Vriska to think about those Vipers. I do think that is just kind of a mind gap there, where you're like, okay, gotta get to Broodlords, gotta get to Broodlords, gotta get to Broodlords. Wait a second, why don't I just go for Vipers? And then you make Vipers. But it took a little while, and she hasn't really been ideally mining from this 4th base. She does have the presence of mind to go for a 5th base, though, which the Hellions were scouting for a little while, I guess, before they were cleaned up. A simple drop could get a cancel on that. Deity's not going to bother quite yet. She has added on more production facilities with tech labs. Oh, I hate when this happens. Oh, I absolutely hate it. Also, bit supply blocks right now, but she does have about 15, 20 supply there. I'm gonna say 15 supply there. That should be on the front lines. So she's not really gonna feel as maxed out as she really is. 3-3 is also on the way, where Vriska delayed her 2-2 to get to all that higher technology. She finally has her Greater Spire started and still has the supply and minerals and gas to get to Corruptors and Broodlords. It's just an option if Deity is gonna be able to engage beforehand. Now Deity, you know, I was talking a lot about how she doesn't have the best of engagements against Zerg. I think she's like overcompensating for the usual mistakes that she makes. Like, she could be a lot more aggressive right now. Her tank count is pretty insane. She should have probably, like, yeah, leapfrogged the tanks a little bit more. Also, spread them out, because Hive is probably on the way at 12 minutes, right? So they're a little clumped. Being very critical here. Viper's gonna get some very effective Blinding Clouds. And there comes the actual engagement. 2 tanks on the high ground still gonna be attacking, and the Liberator was doing some work there before being abducted. But a lot of bio off creep, getting into that concave should be good enough. The Banelings are all gone. Medivacs are getting taken down by the Hydras. But the Blinding Cloud on top of the Marines, but they just simply escape out of it, into the heart of the Zerg army, taking down most of the Vipers, but half of them went down there. 1 tank lives, helping out against the remaining of the Hydras, and that was a very close battle when we look at the actual screen here, but it wasn't close overall. Deity still with a 30 armor supply lead, but is it back here? Okay, no, it isn't. She did find those units, but some of it's been defending against run-bys, it looks like, and some of it isn't still in production in the reinforcement line. A couple of it is in the drop over to the south side, so, I mean, she still comes out ahead. Now, 60 supply ahead with the production she currently has. It does remax pretty quickly, but it looked awfully close when we just watched the single battle. Vriska's been down to 54 drones, I feel, for a while now, so while she was initially accumulating a bank, it was quickly drained after the attack. 6 Corruptors out on the way, going to be turning into 6 Broodlords, no doubt, which she will be able to afford, but then not much else to support those Broodlords. So if Deity just goes ahead and switches off into the Liberators and switches on the Viking production, or Thor production, whatever, I think she has 3 factories, it should be fine. Okay, she's still on 2. I thought I saw her make another one, which would be only for Thor production, but nope, still on 2. So Thors or Vikings, either one, or Ghosts, sure. And Broodlords will not be that much of a threat. She's not quite headed there yet. She is on 5 bases, going up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that 10 total command centers right there? Did I do that right? While keeping up a couple of drops, just to keep tabs on her opponent. Looks like the 4th base did get sniped by that drop, and she is headed towards the south base. So both of the new mining bases of her Zerg player will be taken down, and she will be back to 3, but not really, bases mining, as main, natural, and 3rd are almost depleted. Broodlords have one really, really big problem. They're not very fast. Their other problem is they can't shoot up, but their biggest problem is that they're not very fast, so mobility usually wins out if you don't have the direct response to Broodlords. Again, Thors, Vikings, Ghosts, which currently Deity doesn't have any of those. So she should have a bit of a difficult time against the Broodlords as they come forward here. But she is at a dangerous point where she might be able to take on the Banelings and then go underneath the Broodlords with Marines, which always feels a little humiliating as a Zerg player, but it does happen. Drop off to the 4th base once again. It's going to get that kill or cancel. Looks like a kill here as Vriska is busy trying to take on the army. Now, Deity was trying to retreat. She'll lose a couple of tanks, but that's okay. Hydras do finally respond to the drop, so no kill. Deity is on a couple extra new bases, and she is producing those Vikings now, and there's just not much anti-air except for those Hydras. This is where those their Viking range really comes into play here over this ridge, for instance, and if she has another minute, what, she'll be up to like 9 Vikings? She can produce 5 at a time, I believe. Yeah. So you're gonna get into like one-shot territory soon on these Broodlords. And not only do we not have many more Corruptors, we also don't have Vipers or Infestors, as Vriska has been kind of a little poor for a while. But she does find a freebie base. Nicely done. Not even a planetary yet. No upgrades on that planetary means that it probably would have died regardless, but nice and easy pick off. But then their army gets trapped perhaps by an overall amount of Terran units. There was one Viper, and the Parasitic Bomb is effective against that side of Vikings, but what about the right side? Also, the ground army is just getting depleted here as it runs face first line like a... Well, actually, it's not so bad, actually. Well, hold on. Uh-oh, okay. That actually didn't go so bad. I saw the Banelings coming forward in a line. I was like, well, that's not going to work out so well. But you know what? Tanks firing on their own brethren. The Vikings getting taken out by the remaining Corruptors. That started to look okay, but Deity's production, believe it or not, as a Terran player, she'll probably win out production-wise. It's on her side of the map, and Vriska did not have a huge bank. So the air support finally comes in. Liberators and Vikings taking on the Broodlords. And the Broodlords now are gone. Ling Floods can be scary at this point in the game, but I believe, again, Deity should have just barely enough production to make sure this doesn't snowball into that embarrassing loss against something but Lings. The wars are now also on the way, but she no longer has to worry about Broodlords. That was kind of the one Broodlord army that Vriska could afford. A scan reveals that there is some mining on this base, but it's not even gas mining. No base down here either. So now the gears should be turning in her head, and she should realize, like, hey, that was probably the last Broodlord army. So kind of put a halt on this Viking production, this Thor production, and just go back into the bio with maybe some tank support, and you'll be fine. Infestors are a heck of a unit, guys, but this is now a 70 supply difference. Previously, when there was about a 20-30 supply difference, it wasn't really in the army. It was a lot because Vriska was down very low on drones for a while, but now it is just a severe overall army lead. I guess granted a lot of it's in Vikings, which don't look so useful anymore. We have 15 Vikings up against absolutely no Broodlords, but they could even land here to help out. Just land. Or die. Either way. Pre-splitting against the fungals. It did look like a pretty juicy fungal on the bio, but she probably could have lived through it. Maybe want to go back into some medevac production. 2 medevacs used to the right side, even picked up a Thor. I'm not sure that was on purpose. This base was pretty quickly replaced with an orbital, sure, but Vriska's not really been too active about Ling Run buys. She's been so busy surviving, right? Investor goes down, so already a pretty worthwhile drop. Maybe save the Thor. Nope, not quite. Saves 1 medevac, that's about it. Huge drop of Vikings, if you can call it a drop. It's a drop in. Trying to kill a base, but gonna just instead die. So these Vikings really being quite useless, by the way. Scale of 1 to 10, they are a 1 on usefulness. But they're just gonna be replaced with better units, more appropriate units for how this endgame has come to be. And this does happen. Even in like the non-desperate scenarios, occasionally flooding with lair-based units again is the better option, because the Terrans on nothing but Vikings and Liberators and Ghosts, and you have an opportunity. But in this case, it's absolutely because Vriska was poor and couldn't reinvest into those Broodlords as fast as she would like. So Corruptors are out now, but dying to the Vikings, dying to the Thor. Lots of Hydras on the ground are gonna do decently well, but not a lot of Ling fodder. I think right now they're doing decent because there's not a lot of healing. But back into the Liberators, and they're gonna get burned. Ouch, ouchie. Also a drop. No, a Liberator off to the right side, getting the drones off to the 4th base, and Vriska is finally going to be forced to tap out. GG. Make no mistake, Deity was in complete control for 95% of that game. But Vriska's pretty good at hanging on and making things look a little closer than they should. So now we are on match point. Oh, bam. Man, I keep seeing tweets about, you know, this crazy CSGO match. And then I tune in and, well, first I get an ad, which is awesome. But then second, I'm just like, oh, cool, CSGO. I don't really get hyped. Let's give them some cool skins. All these esports tournaments lasting an entire week, man. I wish. I wish StarCraft 2 could have week-long tournaments all the time. Both players are ready. Could be the final match here on World of Sleepers, which Vriska did not seem too attached to. She went, World of Sleepers? This is actually one of the maps I was thinking of when I was discussing the complications of the new maps in this matchup, so I guess it can be detailed now. So, specifically for these locations and how we look at it, One of the uncomfortable things about this map is that if you want to play bio, which Deity is like mostly a bio player. I'm trying to think of the last time I saw her play mech. Maybe against like Telia a long time ago. So if she's gonna play bio again, this map's difficult. It's not so much that it's large, and like large maps are just not favorable for the non-Zergs in a very general sense, of course. But it's more that your attack path does not... what even is it, actually, is kind of the question. Like, what is your attack path? So you take your natural here. Theoretically, we could have some weird meta where this is immediately mined out and the third is taken over here. Because this is a 2-gas full base on the high ground. But right now, the third base is being taken down here. So more the natural third base. Your attack path to the Zerg is now from your third. Maybe you do this. Maybe you go through the brush, or maybe it's down south. I don't know. And then maybe if you take this to the fourth base, you attack this, which isn't too bad as far as the amount of time to go from here to here. What happens, though, is that you now have this whole ramp to cover that's kind of far away from your natural, where you're not bulking up your units anyways. And it's really far away from your third, where you're usually bulking up your units. Thank you very much, Poison, for that host. GG today. And then if you start reinforcing, like, you know, either through here or through here, there's another pathway for Lings to get in and disrupt reinforcements. So it's just a lot of space to account for when you look at the whole map. There's a lot of space to account for that a single Marine won't really be able to scout run bias, if you're even attentive enough to do that. And then your attack push is not even that fantastic looking, because it's kind of an awkward one, and they could also just take the fourth base, like technically here it's a rich gas geyser, but it is one, or over here. So it's a very odd map. It's not really easy to see, like, okay, I'll go from point A to point B and I'll protect point C, which is where a lot of the other maps from last map pool, or the map pool previously, did. It was pretty easy to understand what I'm supposed to do and then what I'm supposed to be afraid of. This one seems to have a lot more options. So just from the eyes of the Terran players, and on top of that, you know, the size of the map, the weird attack path, the availability of run buys. This is for Protoss to deal with as well, by the way. But you also have some pretty open spaces for big surrounds to happen, with multiple paths to get those surrounds. So just a very scary map. I advise not doing bio on this map to all the Terran players out there. And it's not just me advising this. I was actually talking to Special at GSL. And, you know, the pro gamers can be a little funnily biased, you know, a little too biased sometimes. Okay, there's an attack on the way, so I'll wrap this up. But sometimes it's correct, where he was just like, no, you don't do bio on this map, you go mech. Those are his words, so. If you're like, ZombieGrub doesn't know what you're talking about, then maybe you think Special does. So, Vriska doing a very odd build here. Really fast +1. But more importantly, a bunch of Lings and a Baneling nest. She's doing a Baneling all-in with this little added addition of having +1 melee. Very odd, and also not going to be scouted. The Hellions should be scouting the Lings from across the map right now, but they're not scouting the right place, and that actually has something to do with the map. There's so many different pathways to cover on this map that she doesn't find the right one. Boom, suddenly Banelings are being made in front of her base without her knowledge, despite having active Hellions out on the map. Huge problem. Natural is 100% going to go down, the SCVs that is, and she has to make sure not to let them in the main base and have the Hellions immediately fall back. Now the good news for Deity is that if she can buy any amount of time, the Hellions will eventually be able to win out here. She actually doesn't lose the SCVs, and she raises the supply depots. This has already gone a tons better than I thought it was going to. This is actually really good for Deity at this point, who's got these Hellions back, but she also never swapped off the factory because she wants to continue making Hellions. She was doing a battlecruiser build, which comes with a lot of Hellions. So she actually had a pretty good setup for this, but on top of that, she didn't even lose the SCVs in the natural. This is amazing for our Terran. Like, I'm so surprised she was bold enough to let those SCVs back in the main, because the problem was, if the Lings hit in the main, the Hellions have to deal with the Lings in the natural, which can take a little while because their shots are weird, and they have to go into the main. So you suddenly, what ends up being you know, a couple of or a handful of lings in the natural and that's it, you clean up easy peasy, is now like 2 handfuls of lings in 2 paces, killing both mineral lines. That's when the SCVs actually start to, you know, rack up there. But she saved the SCVs in the natural and stopped the main from being contaminated. That's, well, that wasn't supposed to happen, is what that was. Now she's gonna go into her battlecruiser build because why would you ever stop? Where is that battlecruiser, by the way? There, oh, there it is. But she's also adding on an armory. So while the banelings are obviously capable of being made, can she actually make enough of them to deal with these many hellbats as there will be? I don't know. That's a lot of queens though, and the battlecruiser gets awfully low. No teleport available as it teleported here to attack. A surprisingly solid first defense. Now these Hellions could still threaten the banelings as Hellions, and once they deal with the banelings, they can go into mech. They can go into hellbats, it is. We do have mech as a choice here for Deity, so I'm glad she recognized that. Third to see off to this location is kind of looking like she's going to mine out these minerals, so she's definitely practiced on this map and evaluated what's good on it. With battlecruiser builds nowadays, you're 99% of the time going to have follow-up mech. There were a couple of, as we know, there were battlecruiser builds into bio, but they're kind of obsolete. They're actually not that great. So the prediction of mech is absolutely spot on. Vriska's going to go into roaches and +1. But unfortunately, does not have a really good economy. She's also not having any potential to disrupt Deity's economy, as the lings are guarded by the Hellions, and there's not that many of them to begin with. Scan in the main and a would-be 4th base. I keep calling this a 4th base, but I guess actually this would have been a 5th. Anyways. Yeah, and sees that, I think the one thing she might have been worried about is a fast hive, but you know, with fast hives on this type of scenario, it wouldn't even been... You'd have 4 Vipers and 10 Hydras, like, oh, go. Oh my god. Well, I want to say the first Cyclone push will do a decent amount of damage, maybe even like a victory amount of damage. I'm not 100% on that. Scan reveals what is currently the only army. 6 roaches are about to pop, but that's it. With the queens, I suppose. Decent amount of transfuse, sure. But while there's only 2 cyclones currently, there's like a bajillion hellbats. And I think she could just bully her way in here. The battlecruiser in the main's gonna take the queens away from the main fight early. Just using them as Hellions. I mean, hey, get rid of the lings and banelings first, then turn them to hellbats. Like, I think her army's not really ideal, right? But it is still, funnily enough, powerful just by the sheer number of units she has. Battlecruiser in the main, I thought distracted the queens, but then they got distracted again. Now they're headed towards the main. 4th base would be an easy grab, I believe, but she is trying to take on the army right now. Baneling's getting awfully close with that creep spread with the triple hooks now done. But the the Hellions should eventually be able to tear down all of these. Eventually. Fourth base is on the way. Upgrade's looking really good for our Terran. 2-1, where, you know, obviously Vriska went for kind of an unideal attack upgrade first. We do see all the time double attack upgrades versus Hellion Cyclone, so I'm not going to say that it's bad or useless. It's actually really useful, so she's continuing to invest into the +2 melee. But when Deity has 2-1, she's also going to have a lot more Cyclones, and I think that'll be the killing blow. Pathogen Glands, I think that's a good move. That's probably the best move that Vriska can make, but is it going to be enough? One good fungal could change a lot of things. Battlecruiser's barely going to live again. Oh, ouch. Things progressing slowly. Deity, it's kind of like last game where Deity is 100% in control, but Vriska is getting just that right amount of army to make her scared. So, you know, usually we look at these supplies and it's tap out time. Not yet. There come the rest of the Cyclones, though, and I feel like you're just gonna win with this. Like, don't even bother playing games with the Hellbats. Just let them kill your Hellions. Alright, there we go. You have so much stuff, and Vriska doesn't. That should be the confidence she needs to just roll on in here. Scan also reveals nothing but roaches. I think it's much easier to attack into. No, attack them! Do it! Well, I thought she got a couple of siege tanks. Here they come rolling forward. I guess she got them defensively. Now bringing them forward. Most of the Hellion fodder has finally been done away with, but they soaked up the Banelings and the Lings, and that was their job, really. And Hellion's gonna be the easiest, fastest things to reproduce and reinforce. Vriska has managed to get a lot of minerals and a decent bit of gas for this eventual Greater Spire transition, but still no Greater Spire on the way. That is a pipe dream. Repositioning now with a very weak battlecruiser to the third base as she has taken down the fourth. No need to continue attacking into that direction. Fungals are out and available, and that is a little scary. But Fungals are really only great when you have a bunch of Banelings also rolling in, or Corrosive Biles. With the amount of army available here, I'm not sure if Fungal will quite be good enough. That's a pretty effective one, and the battlecruiser does go down to the remaining queens. So slowly but surely piercing through this. One missed Fungal, unfortunate. A couple Wood Mines is a nice addition. I do believe they have drilling claws. They do. Corrosive Biles are going to be available soon. Kind of an afterthought. Another Fungal is going to cause 3 Cyclones go down. We do have one more Fungal available. A bit of a dance here. I think a Deity just added on tanks, and that's exactly what she's doing. She can make this a lot easier on herself. Tanks, 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 tanks. And behind this, she has expanded twice. Planetary and would-be planetary. Just reinforced to the win. There we go. There we go. Even SCV is coming forward. Tag it. Tag! Put a tag down. Put it. Do it. Put a tag down. No! Damn. Ooh, when you get below 100 supplies late in the game, I feel like that's just the confirmation to tap out. Barely getting back up there. She could start producing Corruptors to prepare for the Greater Spire, and there's not a lot of reliable anti-air, I guess we'll say, but Cyclones do cut it up to a point. This is just slowly not ending, right? A very slow death. But I think the tank transition is finally gonna would be, yeah. What makes this really easy. You don't have to dance around with your vulnerable units anymore. GG. Deity takes the 3-0 and will be, for an extended period of time, the last Banshee Queen. She'll also get quite a bit of cash, thanks to you guys and your generosity. So that's super cool. We had one more donation. Oh, wow. And a big one, too. Sir Lino with $100. Keep it up, ZG. Thank you very much. But more importantly, the players, thank you very much. That is quite a big payday for anyone who made